Robert felt unique even though he lived in a mundane neighborhood. Nature, sports, and art were his passions, but he had little interest in school. After a short stint at Colorado, Robert was in a state of crisis and uncertain about his future after losing his scholarship due to his drinking and poor grades. Lola Van Wagenen, a young woman of fragile beauty and resilient spirit, crossed his path during this time of doubt. Lola came into this world in Provo, Utah, to parents that upheld traditional Mormon ideals and morals in their family. The stark difference between Robert's inclination for daydreaming and Lola's steady nature was a major attraction between them. Lola was captivated by Robert's adventurous and passionate personality, and he discovered in her a person who could understand and alleviate his emotional struggles. Since Robert was still struggling to make a name for himself in the entertainment industry, he picked up a number of side gigs to help support himself. They lived in overcrowded conditions and hardly had enough money to cover their most basic needs. Robert trained himself to be a famous artist by toiling over dreams of his future every night. Lola, meanwhile, spent her days making sure their house was neat and tidy and that chaos didn't consume them. The fact that they came from an affluent family didn't stop Lola from smiling through all of life's hardships. She was always up for a new adventure, believed in Robert's abilities, and encouraged him to keep going after his dreams. Lola was willing to give up some things now in the hopes that success might come later. In 1959, in their cramped flat. Medical professionals still don't have a complete understanding of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. It was a devastating blow to both parents. Robert, who was used to life's challenges, was rendered powerless and buried in a sadness from which he never recovered. But Lola was unflappable. Because of her inner strength, she became a rock for her husband emotionally. She told Robert, "We can't change what has happened, but how we continue to live is up to us." It was Lola's poise and strength that helped Robert overcome his sadness. They have decided to move on with their lives, not allowing this tragedy to shape who they are. After Robert and Lola got back on their feet, they continued to grow their family, certain that better times were ahead. In the year 1960, they welcomed their first daughter, Shauna. New joy was brought about by her entrance. In their early years as parents, the pair poured their hearts and souls into providing a nurturing environment for their children. Even though his obligations as a successful businessman were increasing, Robert made an effort to spend time with his family. When it came to providing a safe and nurturing environment for her children, Lola was, as usual, the rock of the family. As Shauna matured, her artistic abilities blossomed. Pick a painting profession that doesn't include being in the spotlight of Hollywood. While Shauna wanted to keep her distance from her famous father, she saw painting as a way to connect with the world around her. Because she was married, had 2 children, and lived a peaceful life, Robert thought highly of her. James, their second child, exemplified Robert's tenacity and creativity. Following in his father's footsteps, he became a filmmaker and environmental activist. A proof that her skill is more important than the fame of her family. As said earlier, Robert had great pride in James Redford, who he saw as the perfect heir to his innovative energy and strong moral compass. James possessed a fiery spirit, a vivid imagination, and an iron will from birth. Tragically, his life came to an end after an incredible trip, altering his parents' lives irrevocably. Diagnosed with an extremely rare liver disease in the 1990s, James' survival depended on 2 liver donations. While Robert silently bore the anxiety of losing another child, he was there for his son through those difficult moments. The worst feeling for a father is to watch your child suffer and be powerless to help, Robert famously said. And James not only overcame his illness, but he also utilized his suffering as motivation. The cancer had progressed to the point that no treatment could rescue him. James was surrounded by his parents, wife, and 2 children throughout his dying days. Robert made every effort to spend ample time with his child, as if he were trying to compensate for the time they had been away. In a later interview, Robert mentioned that James kept quiet about how uncomfortable he was. To him, it was just another reality. I have never seen someone as strong as my son. Even in his final days, James kept a positive attitude and spoke to his father about unfinished projects as if he wanted his work to go on after he passed away. On October 16, 2020, 2 months subsequent to Robert's birthday, James went gone. His death was a terrible shock, even though his loved ones had made preparations for it. Robert was left feeling powerless and bitter by the cruel hand of fate. Sundance and the Redford Foundation are two notable venues for this. He hoped that by doing so, James' legacy would live on in the family and the community to which he had given his life. Robert said, "James hasn't really left. I will do my best to ensure that his memory is preserved through his possessions. If Scott's death was the initial trauma, James." As time deepened the wound, Robert Redford was once again confronted with the agonizing pain of loss. Once upon a time, he stated, after he confided in Lola, she assisted him in processing his emotions and the pain caused by personal and familial losses. Family is the foundation, she said, and Lola's unwavering belief in this helped them weather the storms of a seemingly disintegrating home. While Robert was abroad for long periods of time filming or attending to significant responsibilities, Lola raised the children and dealt with the day-to-day issues on her alone. Much more than that, she was a mother. She was the rock that kept her family afloat as the waves crashed. However, there were unique challenges associated with this role. She felt lonely and unrecognized at times, despite the fact that her sacrifices and devotion helped the family escape major disasters. Robert and Lola's marriage was unable to withstand the pressures of his career, despite the many challenges they conquered together. After Robert's career took off in the 70s, he became even farther removed from his family. However, they maintained a strong friendship and co-parented their children without wavering dedication, even after they separated. After her divorce, Lola focused on getting ahead in her chosen field. After completing her doctorate in history at New York University, she went on to become a prominent figure in the social justice movement. Along with co-founding the nonprofit organization Consumer Action Now, she vigorously promoted her career. However, they maintained a strong friendship and co-parented their children without wavering dedication, even after they separated. After her divorce, Lola focused on getting ahead in her chosen field. After completing her doctorate in history at New York University, she went on to become a prominent figure in the social justice movement. Along with co-founding the nonprofit organization Consumer Action Now, she vigorously promoted her career. Joining us today is Robert. Environmental protection and gender equality are two causes that Robert and his family have actively supported. Lola became well known for her advocacy work in the fields of social justice and human rights. On the other hand, Robert did his best to keep the family close. Their love and commitment to one another were truly exemplified by their children, Shauna, James, and Amy. Robert publicly recognized Lola's tremendous devotion and sacrifice by calling her the love of his life in a number of interviews. She was the rock upon which he could always rely during his worst hours. Seeing a family that had lived there for nearly 30 years disintegrate, what are your thoughts on it? A seemingly unbreakable tie that eventually gave out under the strain of everyday use. Post your comments below as we move forward with this conversation. The end of Robert Redford's 27-year marriage to Lola Van Wagenen ushered in a new phase of his life. Despite being free of his familial ties, he continued to carry the weight of his past. After his divorce, Robert sought out new partnerships, each of which had an impact on his life and a unique personality. During their time working together on the 1987 film The Milagro Beanfield War, Robert met Brazilian actress Sonia Braga. The captivating beauty and boundless vitality of Sonia was too strong for Robert to resist. Their courtship was the talk of the town after the couple's dramatic premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. Robert found in Sonia an infectious zest for life and a shared appreciation for the arts. But their fervor was like a roaring flame, intense at first, but quickly fading. They broke up a little over a year later, and Robert has brief but clear memories of the relationship. 3 years later, in 1990, Robert collaborated with Swedish actress Lena Olin in the film Havana. Their connection began throughout the film's intense scenes. Robert felt a mix of romantic and creative feelings for Lena because of her stunning beauty and exceptional performing abilities. Beyond the screen, their passion shone through as they were forthright and honest about their thoughts and feelings. But like many Hollywood love stories, it didn't last long. Lifestyle differences and the pressures of fame caused them to part ways peacefully. Kathy O'Rear, a costume designer, was also seeing Robert around the same time. Robert found solace in Kathy's simplicity and groundedness during the challenging period following his divorce. Even though she was not as famous as his previous partners, there was more to Kathy than that. Robert was helped to his feet by her companion. She brought comfort during tough times that the glitter of Hollywood could never equal. But they did separate ways in the end, so it was clear their relationship was short-lived too. Robert Redford's post-divorce relationships were brief, but they all played an important role in his road to emotional recovery. There were many facets of connection and love that he learned from the women that entered his life. Even though he never achieved lasting stability, these relationships marked important points in a legendary figure's life narrative. In addition to helping him through the painful emotions that accompanied his divorce, they also helped him form his view on love and life. A lot of Robert Redford's co-stars, and he had strong friendships and romantic relationships in addition to his sexual ones. Despite their differences, Jane Fonda and Candice Bergen were two women who had profound effects on his life. One of Robert's most notable relationships was with Jane Fonda, with whom he had worked closely for many years. Works such as Barefoot in the Park and The Electric Horseman were created by them in collaboration. Jane was very forthright about the fact that she and Robert fell in love while they were working together. More than his charm and stunning appearance, he captivated her. In addition to his skill and poise, however, Jane and Robert's affair was never over the top. Their friendship was untarnished by rumors or the glitter of Hollywood, and Robert held Jane in the highest regard. Rumors also circulated about his relationship with the Hunting Party co-star Candice Bergen, considering her captivating good looks and sharp mind. The rumors that Candice was involved were never confirmed by either of them, and whatever connection there may have been, it was brief. Despite the extensive coverage that the rumors surrounding Robert and Candice received in the media, it seemed that they had little bearing on his career or personal life. After an impressive but fleeting series of relationships, Robert Redford entered a new chapter of his life, reconciling with the woman who helped him overcome his past obstacles. Robert met German artist Sibyl Sagers in a much more understated environment, the Sundance Resort, which he had founded to encourage people to interact with art and the natural world rather than amid the flash and glamour of Hollywood or at events attended by A-listers. After experiencing failure and stress in his personal and professional life, Robert met Sibyl in his search for equilibrium. Sibyl, providing a venue for her environmental art exhibition at a resort, she didn't perceive Robert as a Hollywood star, but as an intelligent man who valued art and nature. Robert was immediately captivated by Sibyl's authenticity and candor. Unlike in his previous relationships, Sibyl was not captivated by the glitz and glamour of fame, but what she really communicated was a profound spiritual bond and mutual comprehension. Before they met, she said that she had watched several of Robert's films to familiarize herself with him. Nonetheless, she continued to see him as an ordinary guy rather than a famous one. Because Mary was honest with him, Robert felt safe enough to be himself around her. After spending over a decade getting to know one another, Robert and Sibyl finally decided to tie the knot. Hamburg, Germany, Sibyl's homeland, was the site of their intimate 2009 wedding. At the ceremony, neither celebrities nor dazzling lighting were present, giving their whole attention to a warm gathering of their nearest and dearest. Beyond the ceremonial nature of the event, it signified the start of a fresh phase in their partnership, one built on mutual aid and collaboration. More than just Robert's wife, Sibyl became something more. When he was involved in environmental and creative pursuits, she was instrumental. Together, they established the Way of the Rain, a campaign to raise awareness about climate change via the mediums of art and environmental advocacy. The artistic shows are directed by Sibyl, while Robert inspires the crowds with his stories. This went beyond a simple collaborative project. It allowed them to stay in touch with the outside world. Robert has often mentioned how, away from the pressures of fame and public acclaim, Sibyl allowed him to see life with new eyes. Sibyl makes him feel heard. Able to articulate the values of environmental protection, social responsibility, and artistic expression that they hold in common. Working together, they have crafted a life that prioritizes knowledge and meaning over fame. After much deliberation, 88-year-old Robert Redford has chosen to spend his life in harmony with Sybil Zagers. The majority of them call Sundance, Utah home. Robert owns the world-renowned Sundance Mountain Resort there. Santa Fe, New Mexico is another stop on their journey. The two of them enjoy the city for its vibrant art scene and beautiful landscape. They promote environmental causes, artistic expression, and everyday peace via their group, The Way of the Rain. Robert is no longer a regular at high-profile events or on-screen appearances. His time is better spent engaging in humanitarian and environmental initiatives, as well as continuing his lifelong love of painting. Sybil is an environmental artist who has shown her work all over the globe. Along with collaborating with Robert on projects, she also encourages him to follow his passions. Instead of worrying about what they can prove, they are now more concerned with enjoying life and making a positive impact on the world around them. Robert claims that right now he is living a peaceful but busy life. He is still rather busy, but he has lost interest in being the center of attention. Despite living in harmony, bitterness from the past lingers. The loss of Scott and James, his two children, has left him with deep emotional scars. Robert has mentioned that Sybil is a source of consolation for him since she listens to him and shares his sadness. She is not only his life partner, but she also motivates him and encourages him to enjoy every moment. They are sharing the journey into old age with a love for one another and a strong feeling of responsibility to protect the environment, advance the arts, and ensure that their legacy will endure for generations to come. In spite of his legendary status in Hollywood and his impressive career spanning over 60 years, Robert Redford is a resilient human being who has overcome enormous personal obstacles. His life has been filled with ups and downs, from the tragic loss of two sons to reconciling with his second wife and embracing enduring principles in art and environmental protection. As Robert wisely put it, loss and tragedy are a part of life, but how we overcome them and find new meaning is what defines our worth. Robert's story is an inspiring testament to perseverance and resilience. Your presence here as we delve into Robert Redford's deeply moving journey is greatly appreciated.